Have you ever felt that whisper in your soul calling you to something more, but all the things spinning around in your mind have kept you stuck? Well, what if I told you that choosing excellence could be both easier and more adventurous than you could ever imagine? I am Chelsea DeBruin-Colbert, your host of All Things Excellence. I'm a soul catalyst for excellence who leapt off that corporate cliff and left small-town Iowa farm life in my 20s to follow my calling, helping women come home to themselves by anchoring into who they're designed to be. I create sacred containers where women rediscover their truth, design their dream life, and transform those whispers into action. Now you can find me running my business from the soccer sidelines as a coach's wife, hiking my favorite Arizona mountain, or back in Iowa with my family, or on an adventure chasing my next sunrise, hot cup of coffee and journal in hand. Through intimate conversations about the stories, the traumas, and the transformations behind choosing excellence, we're creating a collective healing journey together. I believe in diving deep into personality designs, experimenting boldly, and learning life's greatest lessons through our beautiful chaos. Every week, my guests and I are going to rip down the curtains so you can see behind the scenes of real transformation as we explore what excellence actually looks like. Not just the highlight reel, but that messy middle where the magic happens. Whether you're seeking inspiration to take that leap or already on your journey and craving connection, this is your invitation to join us. So grab your coffee, settle in, and get ready to discover just how close you are to the life your soul is calling you to create. This is All Things Excellence. Hello, All Things Excellence fam. I have a very special guest for you here today. We have the Erin Claire. We call you Erin Claire in our house.
I love it.
It's because it's what your Instagram is, and that's why I started following you. So it's always Erin Claire says this, Erin Claire says that. The Erin Claire Jones, who at the moment you're listening to this, has officially released her first book called How Do You Choose?
So exciting.
Officially out when the day that this podcast is coming out, and it is about human design. It's a human design guide to do what's best for you at work and love and life. I had the opportunity to get the book ahead of time and pour through it, and beware everybody in my family. I feel like because you're related to me, I've been invited in already. Y'all are getting a copy, and I'm writing everybody's names at the top because my favorite part about the book as a whole is that it allows you to really step in the shoes of people that you love through these stories that you've told of clients that you've worked with.
Mm. It's my biggest dream for the book is like not only that people use it for their own alignment, but that they do kind of read the chapters about the people closest to them and just recognize ways in which maybe they could support them better. I read the chapters with my husband. I'm like, I could do this better. It's like I wrote the chapter. So I think it brings us so much compassion to just understand how differently people are wired and how we can better help them and support them.
I agree. The book is really, you took a complex modality and you turned it into a series of mini memoirs. Is what you did on each section. And so with human design, we're going to talk about a little bit about what it is, a little mini snippet of that and how she got here. But you can get that on a lot of her podcasts. Definitely, I recommend go to podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, search Erin's name, listen to all of them. You're going to learn something so different from every single one. They are all worth listening to. I've heard all of them. But what I will tell y'all before we get started on how human design has really helped me in my life, it helped me with the connection of how much I work does not equate to how much success I should have, which as a projector, that was a struggle for me. I definitely hit that burnout thing about 8 years ago. It helps me in my marriage with how we each uncover our best yes. Mine comes to me instantly, intuitively, and Kobe's does not. His is a process. And it also has really helped me embrace my leap, crash, burn, learn, and pivot style of life, which really constantly made me feel like I was behind and I was a failure. And human designs helped me shift that with that little 3-6 profile. So for people who don't know, what is human design?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Human design is a system based on your time, date, and place of birth, like astrology, that reveals how you are uniquely wired to operate in every area of your life, from
Mm-hmm.
how you make decisions to how you can best support yourself as a parent, to how you can build a business, to how to build a career, to how really you can be supported in relationships by your partners. So it
Mhm.
really gives us each our own kind of hyper personalized roadmap to finding our flow in life. And I always say, kind of life, we come into this life without an operating manual, and human design, like, quite literally gives us the manual. It's
Yeah.
like, here you are. It's not predictive. It won't tell you, you'll meet a partner at this age or that you'll become an orthodontist, but it will
Mhm.
tell you kind of your mechanics in a really
Yeah.
practical way so you can kind of really flow with your natural operating system rather than against it.
I think that you touched on something so important there that I had written in my own notes was it's not going to tell you what career you should do, but it is going
Yeah,
to tell you how to best flourish
correct.
within that career. My husband's going back to school right now to be a teacher, but at the same time, he's helping with the athletics department at an up and coming 6A school, which just means it's big. And he eats, sleeps, and breathes sports. And the more we learn about his human design, the more we go, he gets to be in a giant room all by himself where he's constantly organizing millions of dollars in equipment. I don't know if sitting in a history classroom where he teaches for 6, 7 periods in a row is what's best for him.
Oh my God, it's so well, it's just also so wild because, as you know, he's got
Yeah,
like the gift of organization,
he
of like
does.
structuring. It's just fun to hear. I just
Yeah,
love hearing when people like they just like land in their thing, and it's not because they
yeah.
were trying to, it's just because they were, it's just how life unfolds. So,
Ac
anyways.
Actually, this would not surprise you at all. It is in his this is also in his human design, right? So it's in your human design how you are best connected to opportunities,
Hmm.
right? So he's got this 2-4 thing, which
Hmm.
I know it's something in there, right? Isn't something associated with his little profile 2-4 thing
Yeah.
where I was meeting a friend and she said to me, hey, has he graduated yet? Because if not, I have a job for him.
Yeah. That's
And
it.
the next thing we know, he's working at this school. He's opening a brand new school and he's organizing hundreds of boxes into like 40 giant moving cart things. And you walk in there and it's this meticulously, beautifully organized room.
Wow.
I know. So
Mm.
I know. I think that as a highly high capacity overachieving person, I think I've always been really hard on him until I found human design, and
Yeah.
it's helped me have so much more patience
Mm. Yeah.
for who he is and
Human
not,
design does that so well.
yeah, and not expect things out of him. Okay, so we're going to talk about your book. And
Hmm.
y'all, if you want to know how she got here, we talk so much about journeys on All Things Excellence, but I honestly want you guys to just get the book, read her journey, how she found it. You've been studying it for about 10 years.
Hmm.
It was absolutely divine. Somebody met you at a party.
So he
Yeah,
met me at a party,
yeah,
stranger, 2015,
yeah.
and did a little human design reading for me. He asked to
Hmm.
share with me about my chart.
Hmm.
And I was at a crossroads in my life. So I was like, tell me everything. And it was such an insightful, accurate, and confronting experience because I was living
Yeah.
opposite everything he shared. But he ended that conversation by saying, Erin, I think you're meant to do this, and
Mm-hmm.
invited me to study and build a business with him. So that
Hmm.
is how the journey began. You and I and your husband are all projectors.
Yeah.
Opportunities for us are born from often aligned invitations, where we feel really recognized and appreciated. So like that is how my journey into human design began. I don't think I would have considered it a possible career had that experience not happened. And obviously, I don't know what would have happened, but that really launched it all.
Yeah, I love that. Born from aligned invitations. Okay, so the book, you wrote the
Hmm.
book, and the main thing of the book, I want y'all to know that when you get your book, do not expect wild, complex charts or anything like that. I truly want you to open this book knowing it's overflowing with a million tiny little stories that help you understand yourself deeper, but really help you understand a lot of the other people in your life. So in the book, you chose to write about the type, the strategy, and the authority. And what made you pick those three things? Because I think I'd heard you say before that those were, if you could only learn three things, what three things would you learn? I think those were the
Hmm.
three you mentioned.
Those were the three. Like it was hard. I know I shared this with you before we started
Mhm.
recording. I wrote, 150 pages that are not in this book. And I
Mhm.
had plenty of moments where I was in tears being like, I have to include profile. I must include open centers. And I also think I had to have a real like moment with myself and be like,
Yeah.
I think that my first book probably shouldn't be a 400-page book because, like, if my goal, I mean, and that's not to say that that's correct for all people, but like,
Yeah.
my goal in this book is to make human design more relatable, accessible,
Mhm.
grounded than it's ever been. It's to cross the chasm to help it reach the mainstream. So if I'm to like
Mhm.
create this like packed book that overwhelms people just looking at it, like, it won't help me achieve that mission.
Yeah.
So I think that I really had to consider what are the pieces of my chart that have had the most actionable, tangible impact on my life. And what are the pieces of the chart that I see transform my clients' lives? And it's type, strategy, and authority. It's knowing how we can use our energy most optimally. It's knowing how we can find our way into the right opportunities and communicate most effectively. And it's knowing how we can actually assess which decisions are right. This is not to say that other parts of the chart are not important, but I
Mhm.
think we have to choose, and so
Yeah.
those are the ones that I chose, but it was heartbreaking,
Yeah.
and I hope that there are more ways, to share about them in the future, but I think these are the three things that I consult when I'm making decisions, and so I wanted the
Mm,
book to be the place people could kind of go to consult to make decisions and not feel overwhelmed, feel like very much like they could do it.
yeah. And I do love the simplicity of it because, again, I told you with every single page that I read, I thought, my parents will get this. They will receive this. As, small town Midwest people, they are going to embrace it wholeheartedly. They don't need to know anything about human design at all, but they will be able to see all of us in our family through the lens of this. Like understanding my one sister-in-law is an emotional projector,
Yeah.
and we're currently planning a vacation. They're flying out here. My brother is a splenic projector that she's married to, but she's an emotional projector.
Yeah.
And then they've got a little Manny Jen who they're trying to figure out why he's not falling asleep at night.
Yeah.
And it's because he's right. Don't they say something like manifesting generators need to burn their energy?
They have to really kind of like use it up fully. And so it's kind of
Hmm.
hard to enforce bedtimes with manifesting generator kids if they haven't fully used it all up. Like my manifesting generator daughter like runs
Yeah.
laps at the end of the night, and we're just like, I mean, this is not even
Yeah,
initiated by us. It's just like, I
she
must
does.
use it all up. Yeah, she
Yeah.
knows. But I think that they've got to use it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It's so cool. And so planning a vacation with these things in mind, I think has been really great because I know that I get to propose things to her and I can't expect an immediate response out of
Yeah,
her, even though I really want to because I'm trying to plan an itinerary and I'm trying to buy tickets and I have to keep
totally.
reminding myself that it might be a day or a few until she gets back to me with her decision. Also, just thinking, I was even thinking myself with sleeping arrangements. And then the other brother, he is a manifester, which is to inform. He's a to inform manifester, which
Yeah.
explain the difference a little bit. You go into it in depth in the book with how manifestors, who they are a little bit,
Hmm.
and the difference in a manifester that is to respond versus one that is to inform.
Mm. So I think that, one thing I'd also just say to that initial question around why
Yeah.
these three pieces is like, I don't know about you because I know you've been in human design for a while, but I also feel
Yeah.
like these pieces often are like contained in like a paragraph. And so you like get a sense, but you don't actually really know how to
Mhm.
use it. And I
Mhm.
felt like they like each deserved like a lot of time. Like I
Mhm.
feel like I
Agreed.
like wanted like depth in them and
Agreed.
like in a way that I haven't really been able to see or honestly even haven't been able to share. I've only been given like three paragraphs for each thing. So I think
Mhm.
that being able to actually go deep into each piece and giving each piece its own time felt
Yeah.
really different. So,
Yeah.
okay, to your point, so every type in human design will have a strategy, which speaks
Mhm.
to, I think, how I already
You make
said about how we create
decisions.
opportunities. So,
Yeah.
manifesting generators have a strategy of kind of responding and informing, and
Mhm.
manifestors have a strategy of informing. And
Okay.
so basically the difference here is that manifesting generators, and also if you haven't yet looked up your design, maybe you can on your site, you can also
Yeah.
humandesignblueprint.com.
Mhm.
But manifesting generators are really here to kind of like let things come to them and just kind of see
Mhm.
what sparks their gut feeling. And then it can be useful to kind of keep people in the loop of what they've chosen.
Mhm.
Manifestors don't need to wait for anything to come to them. They're just waiting
Okay.
for kind of some urge or kind of lightning bolt to land in them and then to kind of just trust that thing and follow it. So
Okay.
manifesting generators like are waiting for an external cue, whereas manifestors need no cue.
Mhm.
Was that the answer to your question or
Mhm.
was something else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of that because I know that there can be manifestors that are responding to things and that waiting for things to come to them. And
Yeah.
then to have this nephew where it's actually three of my four niece and nephews are to inform manifestors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is,
Yeah.
I think that most manifestors, well, all manifestors are here to kind of initiate, but
Mhm.
they all have kind of different ways of knowing what to initiate. So some can initiate more spontaneously,
Okay.
whereas others are meant to kind of take their time and see what urges they want to kind of initiate over time.
Okay. Okay. Absolutely. That's the thing that I was a little bit curious about is what does that look like with all the different ones knowing that it probably looks different. I
Mm,
Right. Which is
yeah.
another reason I think people are going to love the book because you do give so much time and attention to every single deep one. I always say, as somebody who's a splenic, where my best yes, I always call my strategy like my best yes, right? Is it does come intuitively, but it doesn't just immediately come
Mm,
sometimes.
hmm.
Sometimes I either know instantly or I don't know anything at all.
Yeah.
And it's not about thinking it through or feeling it through. It just takes time to unravel.
Hmm.
So, and kind of have to wait for that to come out. Okay,
Hmm.
so we have generators, manifesting generators, projectors, manifestors, and reflectors for
Hmm.
anyone who knows nothing about human design. But we do have Kobe in my profile. Well,
Hmm.
his name is legally Aaron, which is why it
Hmm.
says it on his profile. So
Hmm.
you have those profiles.
Yeah.
What would you say when you pull those up and look at them are things you do such a great job of this of kind of seeing things that between the two of us maybe that complement us in our marriage and in our partnership or things where things I think that are sticky is how I immediately will know an answer and I expect him to immediately know an answer and he does not.
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel like human design is so useful in relationships for that
Hmm.
reason. I think so
Hmm.
often we can expect someone to be like us and be
Hmm.
disappointed when they're not, but not totally realize that we have that expectation. And I think human design
Yeah.
really helps us discover, like, oh, this person is wired so differently. And so, you
Mm.
two are both projectors, but
Mhm.
you're really different kinds of projectors. And like one of the ways that
Mhm.
that comes up is how you make decisions. And this part is
Mhm.
explored in the book, and that you, like you said, are what we call a splenic or a splenic projector. So you're super fast. As
Mhm.
soon as you have
Mhm.
an intuitive knowing, you're meant to take action on it. Like you said, you can't force when it comes. The
No.
work is to like hear it when it comes and then be courageous enough to act. Your Kobe, on the other hand, is not like that. Not fast, not spontaneous. He's really meant to kind of give himself time to talk things through with
Mhm.
different people in different spaces and kind of see what threads of truth remain over time. So you can
Mhm.
see how like that might feel actually very sticky if
Mhm.
you're expecting him to move as fast or he's expecting you to want to talk everything out because like you
Mhm.
guys just don't need the same thing.
Mhm.
So I would say that's a really key piece in your dynamic is that you honor that. And it's so funny because you shared a story with me on Instagram, which I shared in the book, and you read it this morning. And I
Yeah.
actually just think it's like the best example ever because
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it and then you're gonna correct me, but like
Yeah.
you shared with me that knowing this about your husband, now every night you kind of go on a walk, you go on like your
Mhm.
loop outside your house, and you give him space to kind of talk through his day. And if he like needs more time, you'll do multiple loops. But like I just think it's such an extraordinary example because it's a good reminder of you being like, I don't need this, but he does. Like, what is
Mhm.
the ritual I can build into our days so he has that space to talk things out? And
Yeah.
I tell another story in the book about somebody needing a lot of time with decisions and the other person being very fast and like how they had so much friction because of it. So
Mhm.
I just think that like that's such an extraordinary example of what can happen when you know somebody's design. Did I get that right? I hope so.
Yes,
I hope I told the story
I
right in the
do.
book. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I think I had to really where I struggle with that one because I read it to him when he got home a little bit ago and said, I got to the end of the book. Can I read you this? And he looked at me going, wait, what? I go, that's you. That's literally you. Like submitted to her on Instagram. That's actually you in the book. And he was like, okay, 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 75% of the time. But I
Mostly.
think
Yeah.
the thing with that is if he tries to talk things through in our kitchen when we're cooking at night or I'm sitting there and I'm just trying to get things done at the island, I don't do a great job. But I know for myself
Mm.
that if my body is in physical movement, I'm better at giving him space to talk it out.
I love that. And I also think that like something that's really important, and I didn't offer the name here, but his authority in human design is called mental or environmental. Like
Mhm.
he needs sounding boards. He needs people that are like listening and asking questions and kind of pulling his truth out of him. So I also love that
Mhm.
awareness for you of like what's required for me to be the sounding board that he needs. And it's like, oh, I
Mhm.
can't do this when we have like a bajillion things happening. It's like
Mhm.
we'll have this intentional space. And also something I love in both your designs is like this is, for the human design lovers, both have gate 5, which is very much around like ritual, like having ritual to your days. So like it also makes a lot of sense that like one of the ways that you could best support him is like creating this ritual that you guys can experience together.
I did not know that. We also both shut down between Christmas and New Year's and watch all the Harry Potter movies start to stop every year. We have for over,
It's an
I don't know,
amazing ritual. Can I
10,
just
15 years.
Can I just say, like, I haven't read the Harry Potter books in a while, but I remember this is like totally so random, but like before everyone would come out, I would read all of them over again. And I
Yes.
just like remember it was like so much fun. And I'm just like, so I so get the desire to just keep going back.
Yeah.
Anyways, to go back to human design,
It's
you
our
know,
thing.
yeah.
We went home for Christmas last year, not this past year, but the year before, and we came home going, we are never doing that again. We are exhausted. We have to reemerge into the new year. We didn't have time to rest. We didn't have time to restore. We didn't get to watch all of our Harry Potter movies. Sorry, y'all. We will not be seeing us during Christmas again.
Oh my God, I love it. Two projectors. What a great example of you guys being like,
Yeah.
we are taking the time we need.
Mm-mm.
Um, I think something I also love in your profiles or in your charts is
Yeah.
I think sometimes in human design we talk about the magic of being around people of similar types.
Mhm.
There can be a sense of resonance, of harmony and understanding, but I think even more than type, it can be really extraordinary to be around people of similar profiles. And so you are a
Mm.
4/6 in human design, he is a 2/4. And so
Mhm.
like it basically means that you both have this 4. And for
But I'm
anyone,
3-6. Did I
oh wait,
send you
why do
the
I
wrong
have you
thing?
as 4/6?
Did I send that? Did I change?
Oh, so I'm not going to share what I was going to share then.
Yeah.
Are you 1:14 p.m.?
Yes. AM. I
Aha.
probably typed that wrong. I'm 1:14 AM. Uh-huh.
This, my friends, is why you need to put in the precise time.
It matters. It really matters. Yeah, if I would have been born in California, I would have been born the day before.
You are indeed a 3/6, and so what I
Uh-huh.
was going to say is not relevant to the two of
Ah.
you.
But it is not the same. So that's where I feel like human design really helped us because
Yeah.
him being a 2-4 and me being a 3-6,
Yeah.
learning the importance of that with our profile was really big because they
Yeah.
are really different.
They're so different, and
Mhm.
like, and I think, just to give people a taste, I think for you with a 3 in your profile, like you are somebody who you like learn by throwing things against the wall. Like you have to
Mhm.
experience things, you get your hands dirty, you like to adventure. Like it's just like a very kind of entrepreneurial trial and error, like just kind of learn by
Mhm.
doing kind of person. And he's very much meant to kind of go with what feels easy and natural and like
Mhm.
and really kind of honor that like what feels effortless is often exactly where he's meant to go. And that's probably not gonna feel as
Oh,
true for you.
wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that doesn't feel I honestly, almost to a fault, have a challenge when things are too easy. Even my parents would go, "Why do you run away from when things are easy? Like you just have to find the thing that's a challenge."
Well, and again, it's not that
Yeah.
you can't follow things that feel easy, but you're
Yeah.
somebody who like you kind of are meant to go through the fire and be like, what worked, what didn't,
Yeah.
how can I
It's the
like,
fun of it.
yeah, like whereas there's a
Yeah.
need for that adventure because like you just are so rich in wisdom because of it.
Mhm.
And for him, he just carries all these, and it doesn't mean he's not going to go through the fire because we all do in our own
Yeah.
ways throughout our lives, but it means that he like carries all these innate talents and all these kind of natural gifts that like
Mhm.
he's really meant to lean into. And I think with the
Mhm.
twos, often we like as somebody who also is a two, like we don't assign worth to those things. We don't think it's
Mhm.
enough. And like it's really powerful to have the people around us, like perhaps you for him, to remind him that like it's
Mhm.
definitely enough,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
And also one thing I would say, and I don't know whether you've noticed this in your design, but like one point of friction I would see for
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
is around something in the chart called the defined ego. I'm just sharing these names for those who know, but please
Yeah.
don't worry about it if you
It's
don't.
the tiny little triangle, right?
So tiny little triangle, basically you have it defined, meaning it's colored in.
Mhm.
He has it white. So it means
Yeah.
that because you have it defined, you have like, yes, you're a projector. For those that are new, it means that you need rest and space and your energy ebbs and flows. But
Mhm.
you also have an extraordinary level of willpower and you can make things happen so fast and like faster than most anyone.
Yeah.
And, you just, when your heart's in it, like nobody can stop you. There is this
Mhm.
kind of inherent drive and motivation. It doesn't mean you're meant to go, go, go all the time. Like you still need to rest, but you might be really tempted to go, go, go because of it. But
Mhm.
sometimes you also might be, and I don't know if this is true for you, kind of
Yeah.
be disappointed in others, like comparatively low capacity or like and be like they can't do it as well or can't do it as fast as me when like they're just
Yeah.
designed differently. And
Yeah.
like for him, for example, like his willpower like ebbs and flows, his motivation ebbs and flows. So like if you are kind of putting that pressure on him, that could be hard.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
really just honoring that like there is this need for you to express it, whereas like his is going to kind of more naturally come and go. Do you feel that?
That I would say that was one of the biggest friction spots in our entire relationship. So we've been friends for 20 years. We've been together for 15 and married for 10. And I wouldn't say that today. I wouldn't have said that in the last 10 years, but definitely have in my lifetime said, why is he so lazy? Like, why do you have to be lazy? Why do you need I mean, literal naps, you know? And so when human design came to me a little over 3 years ago, a random woman showed up at my house and for an appointment for my job and sat down at my kitchen table. And she somehow brought up human design and she was like, let's look it up. Do you know when you were born? And I'm like, of course I do. It was 1:14 in the morning, super weird time. And she was like, well, I'm a manifesting generator and I'm a unicorn and you're a projector, so you need a lot of naps. And I was like, lady, I will run circles around you for fun every day
Mm-hmm.
of the week.
Mm-hmm.
I do not need naps. I go hard and I get
Mm-hmm.
stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not. And so it honestly, I didn't receive human design for probably 6 months after that in a totally different situation when a friend said, well, it would depend on your design. And I was like, are you talking human design? And she's like, how do you even know what this is? And I said, well, this random lady showed up, sat at my kitchen table, and I think she's nuts because that's just not true. Where now I have definitely learned how I got to burnout as a projector. I think it's more, I feel for myself, it's more creating spaciousness,
Mm-hmm.
where my husband takes literal naps in the
Yeah,
middle of the
yeah.
day. But I don't know how to, I mean, I can't see myself doing that.
Yeah, and
I mean,
honestly,
I might
every
throw myself on the couch, but I'm not going to fall asleep.
yeah, and I think the question for projectors in general is like, what is the thing that feels the most nourishing?
Yeah.
Is that, he is somebody who's so sensitive and like his energy really does ebb and flow in a really big
Hmm.
way. So it's not surprising that naps might feel particularly good for him. Like you do
Hmm.
have a need to expend your energy in some way. And like I
Hmm.
too am like not a big nap person, but it
Hmm.
is like for me, it's like reading fiction is one of the most nourishing things for me. Like
Hmm.
just lying down with nothing,
Hmm.
whatever the thing is. So like I think it's worthwhile and for any projectors listening just know that like we are so susceptible to overdoing
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
it really can require practice and a lot of intention to be like I'm going to be unproductive
Hmm.
you know
And I do feel like there are pieces in my design, or maybe if I've been around people who are more generator, manifesting generator, I get myself pretty easily roped into thinking I can do more than I really can.
Yeah. And so like for example, and I talk
Hmm.
about this a bit in the book of like when when projectors are around lit up generators and manifesting generators, and honestly even non-lit up, it just like it but mostly lit up, it can give us like a lot of energy and we can become like a little bit addicted to it where it's
Hmm.
like I can keep going, like why stop, And then we often kind of need to pull away to be like, oh, that energy is not my own. And I
Hmm.
need to stop. And actually, one way I saw it manifest for me was in my 20s living in New York City, which is obviously a very energetically intense
Yeah.
place. But I remember just like I would go out like really late often. I was just like going hard in every part of my life. But I remember like I would like sometimes like take a little space from my group and then I'd be like, wait, I'm exhausted. Like, why am I still out? But it was just like I was so like in the vibe that I
Yeah.
was like kind of misinterpreted all that energy as my own. And it was really just
Hmm.
like me picking it all up. And so
Hmm.
it's been really good practice for me often to kind of take a little space then to be like, oh, it's time for me to turn in.
Hmm. I love in the book where you talk about you and your husband. I think you went to Italy
Yeah.
and
Oh my
he
God.
was ready.
I remember it so vividly. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to tell?
Oh, well, I was just like, we like flew to, yeah, we landed somewhere in Italy
Yeah.
and we like landed at the hotel and my like
Uh-huh.
husband is a very, vigorous, energetic man. And we got there and he was like, okay, let's go. Like he was so
Mhm.
like amped up and like, I
Mhm.
was like, yes, we must go. I'm so exhausted, but like, I'm just gonna like follow his lead. And so like, we ended up walking around and like, at a certain point, I was just like on the curb. I was like, my like belly hurt, I was tired, and he was just like so excited and exploring everything. And it was just like such a good lesson where it's like his level of stamina as a generator like doesn't need to be matched by me. And so
Mhm.
now it's been a big lesson. We can like land in a new place and he can go adventure and I'm allowed to rest and that's
Yeah.
okay. Because like I need a moment, especially after travel, to just like take a beat before I go out into the world. So, there are so many small and big moments where I've just been like, oh, we're just different. And now with
Yeah.
kids, now with two kids, I have four of the five types represented in my family. So we have a lot of differences to honor.
Uh-huh. How do you feel that? So I do think one thing, my friend and I, we've talked about this where she is a generator and she's also the mom. And so I think a lot of times it's that just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
And you talked about that in the book with generators, I think, and even in that parenting role. So what does that look like a little bit for y'all balancing that? I mean, when I saw you being a mom projector, that said to me, "Oh, I can do that and not die." Because it was a little concerning
Yeah.
what would that actually look like? Would we be two really burnt out, spent to the max, impatient parents who are wildly exhausted? And I know the wildly exhausted part is probably a little relevant for you, having a 7 month old.
Hmm.
You literally grew and birthed a baby. You've grew and now you're birthing a book. But what does that look like for y'all in your house with that dynamic?
Yeah.
Him being
S- So
a
for
generator.
those that are new, generators are very energetic people at their best. When they're lit up by
Yeah.
what they're doing, their energy's boundless. They have so
Yeah.
much capacity, but because of that, they can
Absolutely.
end up taking on too much and kind of be burdened with things that they don't actually want to do and can be kind of a fast track to burnout.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I would say a big lesson for us is that,
Hmm.
like, I think that it's not always 50-50. Like, it's not
Hmm.
always like we can't always contribute in the same way,
Hmm.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
And so I think that's been a big lesson. And I tell a story of a manifesting generator projector couple in the book, which I think is very
Yes.
much that, of her being like,
Yes.
I can't show up for everything. And like, it's okay. Like I offer guidance and do other things that are so meaningful. So I think for us, like, I think we've kind of had to detach from like, even like say he gets really motivated sometimes of like I want to go like plant all this stuff, and
Mhm.
and like there was a version where I was like I have to be in the dirt planting with him like and I'm exhausted. It's a Saturday and like in our lives it's like oh he's gonna plant and like I'm gonna lay on the swing and just like really support him in the planting
Yeah.
and also like give myself a moment to rest. So I think that
Mhm.
the lesson for us has been like just to not expect each other to be the same. And
Mhm.
and I think in the
Mhm.
early parenting time, like it can be so
Mhm.
exhausting. So it's more like it's just like we take turns. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just like you got the energy now, I've got the energy now. But
Yeah.
I would say that like parenting has been a really big lesson for me as a projector because so much of the talk around projectors is taking rest.
Mhm.
And with two very young kids and also launching a book, like my opportunities for rest have been rare.
Mhm.
And so, like, I think that it is just a reminder that, like, yeah, maybe you can't take 3 hours on a weekend, or maybe you can't have an hour at the end of the day, but like, even small moments of pause,
Mhm.
even small moments where you kind of give yourself permission to like not do a thing can make a difference. So I
Mhm.
think that's been a big reminder for me is just like, allowing
Yeah.
that. And I would also say, as a projector mother, I feel like I entered into the experience of being a parent knowing that I would need help,
Yeah.
knowing that I couldn't do it all alone, knowing that like I would still need time alone and like still need to sleep
Mhm.
in my own energy. Like I just like knew that. So I wasn't trying to be anything but that. And like,
Yeah.
yes, we have help that we've hired, but also like when I need help, I'll like text my neighbor and be like,
Yeah.
please come help. Like
Yeah.
so it's just like I ask for help a lot, and I think
Mhm.
that like I'm just aware of my capacity. But I think, I don't know, I think being a parent is so extraordinary and it's not for everybody, but it definitely is for me. And I think that
Mhm.
being a projector was not a thing that told me whether I should or should not do it, but more let me know how I could do the thing best, especially being married to a generator.
Yeah. And I think giving that permission to both of you that because you are a projector, the hired help and the neighbor who's really helpful is really great, and not to beat yourself up because you're reaching out to them, but also your husband being a generator doesn't mean that he's always lit up and excited to do all of the things with the girls
Yeah.
and that he needs that hired help all in the
Oh
same.
my God, totally. And
And I think
like
it's that permission of that.
it is, and like
Yeah.
I think one thing I've learned being married to a generator is like
Mm,
they can hold so much, and yet like when they have space to do the things that really excite them, like that impact is insane. Like I say in the book, like
yeah.
nothing beats being around a lit up generator. And
Yeah.
I just feel that to my bones. And so like that's kind of the lesson I'm in right now. Like our lives are insane, and also like what are the moments, the space that I can like
Mhm.
carve out for him to like do what he needs to do because like we
Mhm.
all benefit so much from that. So I would say, and I tell a story in the book of two generators being married to each other and like their love language is being like, oh, I can like see that you need time in the yard, go take it, or oh, I can see you need
Mhm.
time to work on your novel, go take it. Like so I think really supporting our generators by just like giving them space to do the things that really satisfy them and like allowing them to
Mm.
take that time without guilt, whereas projectors we might need a little bit of time to just like chill.
Mm. I think your book is going to help a lot of people release a lot of social norms and the rules
I
that
hope so.
they felt forced upon them. And I can't even remember what it was, but I was driving the other day and my mom said, you should something. And it was like the little voice of Aaron in my head. And I said, actually, I don't have to do that. It's actually not good for me. And this is what I've learned. And I can't wait for her to get the book and read it so she knows what's.
You have to keep
I
me
know.
updated. Yeah.
I will. I will. It was very fun getting to read through the book. There's a lot of examples in your book, and one little part about a manifesting generator and a projector being married, which are my parents.
Oh my
And
God, so fun.
it
Yeah.
explains so much about them, how why my dad does have to have this like constant go, 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 go thing. But when he stops and he's done and he crashes, he is absolutely positively done. But he also he is the most quiet, reserved, yet charismatic, lit up person you've ever met,
Yeah.
where he just brings so much life and so much fun when he's rested and when he's lit up about what he's doing. But my mom is the queen of 10-minute power naps.
So
And
good.
watching it make so much sense about their different rhythms of life was really fun for me reading the book.
I
It
love
was
that.
really fun. It was really
Yeah.
fun. Okay, so a couple things on our profiles that I found really helpful for us
Yeah.
that I would love for people to hear about are one of them was uh, our motivation, how I'm innocence
Mhm.
motivation, but my
Mhm.
husband is fear motivation. And
Mhm.
for me, I think innocence motivation, learning about that a little deeper was kind of, I don't know, it might have for me been one of the most important things to realize when I'm on the right path and when I'm not.
Mhm.
What's
Yeah,
kind of
well,
the
it's
difference in those?
it's interesting because I feel like especially the innocence plus the six in your profile plus the defined ego, it just is an interesting dance, you know? Like I would say,
Good time.
yeah, the innocence piece is so much around the fact that like
Mhm.
you're really here to be like a role model. Like you're really here to kind of
Mhm.
do things just like for the experience of it and trust that like so much of your impact is just like being yourself and doing your thing and not kind of getting caught in like all the things you think you should want or like but really just
Mm.
being like rooted in yourself and trusting the powerful impact you have just through that alone.
Mhm.
Like I feel like especially for sixes and the innocence is six in many ways, like it's like your own story, your own experience. Like those are the things that create the most value. And I feel like often people underestimate that. Where it's like, oh, my story doesn't matter. I'm gonna go like teach people this stuff. And it's like, but your story is kind of it.
Yeah, as a kid, one of the things in love, I'm sure, my mom would always say is how you just don't care about anybody but yourself. Like there are other people in the world. And the older I got, the more I realized, well, I'm not selfish. I just honestly don't think about it. I don't think about comparing myself to other people. I just think about, I kind of wake up in the morning and I do what I want to do and I live the way I want to live. I
Hmm.
don't really think about why I shouldn't because somebody else is doing something different.
Hmm. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is so it, where it's just like not trying to kind of fit in or be like anyone else, but
Mm-mm.
just kind of do your thing and trust the impact that comes from that. And I think with
Yeah.
your partner, with the motivation being fear,
Hmm.
it is this kind of like motivation to just like really get to the bottom of things, like to really kind of understand how things work, to kind of shed light on things. And the
Hmm.
motivation behind that is to kind of like eliminate any insecurity or uncertainty,
Hmm.
wherever he can to kind of like understand things at another level of depth. I
Hmm.
feel like it's often useful to understand when that is motivating somebody because it
Hmm.
can be really different than us. Do you see that in him?
Hmm. For him, yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is so, I think part of, I don't know, this might be his mental thing, or I know I have a lot of spaces filled in and he doesn't. I feel like for him to come to a realization of how something is affecting him, I can get it so quickly. And for him, it's this ever evolving thing where 10 months later, he can go, remember that thing about my human design that you told me 10 months ago? Now I'm seeing that. Now I'm feeling
Wow.
that. Now I'm
Hmm.
resonating with that.
Hmm.
Okay. 10. All
Yeah.
right. Well, we talked about that in like July, but it's exciting to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
it's always
it's
kind of a delayed thing going, how is that playing out for him?
And also, I will say that like there are some things in the chart, and I would say motivation
Mhm.
being one of them, that like, yes, we can observe it in people, but it's so part of like their inner
Mhm.
engineering that like it might be hard to witness. Like I've done readings
Yeah.
for friends where I look at parts of their chart and I'm like, that just doesn't feel like them. And then I'll
Yeah.
sit and share it with them and they're like 100%. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what your experience is like, So it's like, while I might not observe it from the outside,
Yeah.
you could be experiencing it so deeply on the inside in
On
ways
the
that I don't
inside.
see.
Okay. And so is some of that one of the last thing we'll kind of touch on is the channels. So channels and gates are the little lines that are colored in,
Hmm.
either all the way or part of the way.
Hmm.
And isn't that something like you can see where it's like sometimes we can feel the channel for ourselves or people can experience us, but we don't even feel it for ourselves?
So there are some channels where they
Mhm.
basically, I think what you're referencing is the conscious and unconscious, is that right?
Yeah.
So there are some channels that like, let me just use you as an example that,
Yeah.
wait, let me just double check that you can be conscious of and some that
Yeah.
you might not be aware of. Like it's actually
Yeah.
so funny. Like the channel that you're actually conscious of is around the kind of freak to genius piece.
Yeah.
Like you're somebody that might be aware of the fact that you like really have these like powerful insights that are just like yeah, that you just are like interested in like mystical things, but also really good at kind of simplifying things in a way that makes sense. And
Hmm.
there are other parts that you might see less, but others see in you. Like
Hmm.
you might be less aware of the fact that you're like a creative force, but others might see that you like are overflowing with creativity and like
Yeah.
here to express yourself in so many ways. So I think that like we all have these different gifts and some we're more aware of and other ones we're less aware of.
I think that's why I love your book, because you took something that's so complex
Yeah.
and you simplified it so well. Is that 4323 one?
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
you have and your husband has. Yeah.
Yeah, we keep it really to the point around here.
Yeah.
There's
So good.
there's no extra fluff in what we're doing and saying and how we're living. And so that in itself is a really good time. I think it makes things simpler. Um
Yeah.
yeah, except for his storytelling. I think that has to be with that mental part of him. It's a long story. And my splenic is like, get to the point.
Which is so funny because, as you know, with his mental authority, like
Yeah.
the process of talking is the thing that brings him to the truth. So, like, what you might
No.
perceive as like, oh, this is long, is like, but he's like really getting something from it.
Yeah, that's why we had to go on a walk.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel as long when I'm walking with my dog and she's walking around and I'm kind of watching her walk around as he's telling his really long story with a seriously insane amount of details. But it is that, and if you kind of if you interrupt that story and that process, there almost is something in his head that he has to start all the way back from the beginning to then keep unrolling it. And in the book, you talked about how you told a story about one of the Williams sisters, how they have to talk to multiple
Yeah.
different people. And when he was deciding to be a soccer coach, I remember the school text him while we were on vacation. We're literally driving around northern Arizona and they text him and we're in the car with my brother and sister-in-law and the kids. And I said, "Do you want to talk about this right now?" Knowing this about him, knowing he has to talk it out, he goes,
Yeah.
"No, I don't want to talk about this right now." I said, "Okay, fine." So we get back to the Airbnb that night. We're walking Chloe, the dog, and he goes, "Okay, I'm ready to talk about this now."
Oh.
Okay. So we talk about it as as we walk Chloe, and then a few days later he gets home. He goes into the school. He talked to two people. I didn't know he was going to even do this. There were two coaches at the school that he wanted to talk to about their experience.
Hmm. Oh,
And then he
it's so
came home
good.
and he goes,
Yeah.
"Okay, I know my decision now." I said, how did you suddenly come to this?" And he said, "I needed to talk to this person and this person. And once I did, I knew that this was what I wanted to do. And so I already sent in the email and said yes."
Well,
Okay. Yeah.
so good. Like again, it's
Mhm.
I just love when people just like kind of intuitively know how to do it, and human
Yeah.
design often gives them a language to be like, oh, that is how I choose.
Mhm.
You know, I
Yeah.
think that I tell another story in the book of somebody who like basically for every major decision would just like call four friends because like it was like four friends would each kind of spark a different thing within her, and it was like through that experience of each one that she would
Yeah.
land on like what felt right. You know, and I
Yes.
talk about that story with Serena Williams being like, do I leave tennis? And like, yeah, I've got to talk through my therapist and Tiger Woods and
Mhm.
Venus and kind of see where I land. So
Yeah.
I love that he did that so naturally. And like it's such a good reminder for you as a partner, being like, oh, that's like his journey to reach clarity and it's not mine.
Yeah. I also think then as a splenic, it's knowing that when I talk it out, sometimes I talk things out with people and it has nothing to do with what they say, but it's almost the art of sitting in what's going on,
Yeah.
that then all of a sudden out of nowhere it'll just hit me and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I don't need to,
Yeah.
this is
Say
not
it
even
out.
this is not
Hmm.
even up for discussion anymore. Just kidding.
Mm.
Regardless of what all of you think and are saying, I actually don't care. I know what I'm doing.
Totally. It's and how do you experience your intuition? What's it sound like, feel like?
It always hits right below, like right at that bottom part of my ribs, and
Hmm.
it's like it hits. I feel it physically, I feel it right at the bottom where my ribs come together, but mentally, it's almost like a spoken thing comes across
Wow.
my head and guides me to what to do next.
I
So,
love it. I love hearing people's articulation of it because it's obviously
yeah,
different for everybody, but it's
yeah.
so useful.
Yeah. Okay, one thing I have to bring up
Yeah,
before we wrap it up is so projectors, they always say projectors need to wait for the invitation, right? Are all projectors wait for the invitation?
correct.
Correct. And I think that can get a weird rap because I think a lot of projectors can feel like they just have to sit around and wait for everything to come to them.
Yeah.
But in the book, you did such a beautiful job. I learned so much from this about you don't have to wait for the invitation with everything.
Yeah, that's
Correct.
right.
Right. And you can also, in a weird way, watch for invitations. So, what
Hmm.
happened, y'all, was the first week of February, you posted on Instagram that you had this random goal. Do you remember this?
Oh,
Do you
I
know?
do.
I thought it was insane that you posted it. I was like, did she forget she's a projector for a minute?
Yeah, I did.
You posted on, you did. I'm like, I don't know what just came over her, but okay. You posted, I have a goal to do 100 podcasts
Hmm.
around the my book launch. And I screenshotted it and I sent it to my friend who's a human design coach for years. And I said, does this constitute as an invitation?
What did they say?
Well, you literally, she said, yeah. Because I screenshotted your post, your story post that said, I have this goal to be on 100 podcasts by my book launch. And I thought, you're nuts. That sounds
Yeah,
terrible. As a
yeah,
projector, I thought that sounds
yeah,
terrible. But
yeah,
you said it and you put it out there. So I screenshotted it, sent it to my human design coach. And she said, she goes, that is definitely, yeah, that's like, that's kind of an invitation. I was like,
yeah,
sweet, man, shooting my shot on that one. I mean, she can say no all day long, but
yeah,
whatever. So
yeah.
it's honestly a little bit of that, right? Like you can look in the world for invitations.
Well, I think also like you just have to pay attention to the feeling of it because like what the
Mhm,
invitation is that you feel like really invited in and really
mhm,
recognized, you know, and
mhm,
like and so that you're working with and collaborating and partnering with and friends with people that like
mhm,
really clearly see you because I think to your initial point,
mhm.
so much of the journey of being a projector is disentangling our worth from how hard we work and how much we do. And so the
Yes.
invitation is often kind of a thing that lets us know who actually sees us for our gifts beyond how much we do and also
Mhm,
who's actually interested in our guidance.
mhm,
But I think like it's meant to be something we work with proactively, you know. I think that like
mhm.
it's something to experiment with. Like, you know, I have definitely pitched people before, you know, you read like that happens. And I think it's for
Yeah,
you just like paying attention to like throughout that experience, like, does this feel right? Do I feel recognized? Do I feel invited? Like, does
yeah.
this feel like the right experience? And I go through that same journey. And so, you know, I
Mhm,
tell a story in the book of how my partner and I kind of began our relationship, which was like very much me letting him know where I was and kind of like
mhm,
letting him respond as a generator. And like, so to me, the invitation felt very energetic, you know, and like, and I will say with your invitation, I know I got back really late. You like invited me, and then like 2 months later, I was like, okay, I'm ready. But like, I would say, I think like, you know, yeah, it's like I just like also take my time to feel into things to kind of also
mhm.
know when they're right. And I think what was
Yeah.
really amazing for you as a projector that you should know around like inviting people is like when you make people feel really recognized and seen, which is a gift of projectors, like they're gonna feel invited, you know? And so I
Yeah.
think I reached a point where I was like getting closer and I was like, yeah, like this would be amazing, you know? Like,
Mhm,
and so I think that it's a thing to experiment with as everything in human design is. And I
mhm.
have experimented with the invitation so much around this book launch, you know, and it's a constant lesson and like but I think it is not a passive thing. It's not meant to be a thing that disempowers us or limits us. So like I would
Mhm,
encourage projectors to really shoot their shot when they feel inspired, especially for you as a splenic projector, and
mhm.
just stay really connected to like, do you really feel appreciated, valued, invited?
That makes immense amount of sense because having a podcast has been really interesting. Suddenly everybody wants to be on your podcast. Everywhere you go, everybody wants to be.
So
Everyone's like,
you're like, I
I
have a
want to be on.
podcast. I'm pitching you.
Like you do know you have to have something to talk about.
Yeah.
But I have had no problem saying no to people because I've found I just knew I intuitively knew that I was supposed to birth this podcast from this place of really being able to um, this goes like way above and beyond for most people on here, but basically my vocation and my gene keys is line two, which is marketing.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
knew that. And when I read that, I've never felt so seen in my entire life because my favorite thing in the world is when I'm obsessed with someone or something. I want the whole world to know
Yeah.
that I'm obsessed with them. And so when I become obsessed with a service someone has, or what
Mm,
someone does, or their story, or a product that they have, or that they make, or whatever, I'm like, how quickly can I get you on this podcast? Because I am so lit up, and everyone in the world has to know what you do, what you offer, what you bring to the table. And so within that, is that where it almost makes it like this weird okay reaching out to them?
I
kind of
think
shooting the
that
shot.
well, you also do have this channel, the 2644, which is basically
Yeah.
like makes a lot of sense to me based on what you're sharing because it is the gift of
Mhm.
marketing and it basically means like when your heart's in a thing, you can literally sell anything. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? So like
And vice versa, though. It's like when I'm not,
no, it's impossible, you know?
yes.
So like I would say that like if you get a like really strong intuitive hit,
Hmm.
I would definitely reach out, you know, and I would just stay really connected to kind of like how invited in you feel throughout that process. Because, like,
Yeah.
if you reach out and they kind of say yes really reluctantly and it doesn't really feel like a
Hmm.
good exchange and it feels like you're giving and not really receiving, then, like,
Hmm.
yeah, probably not the right fit. But
Okay.
if you reach out and they're like excited and it feels reciprocal and you feel valued, then like it could be great. One
Yeah.
thing I've had to remember for myself as a projector is that most people, meaning all generators and manifesting generators, which is
Hmm.
70% of the population, they're here to kind of like let life come to them and see what they respond to.
Hmm.
So, as projectors, when we kind of make ourselves visible, we're giving them things to respond to. We're giving their gut a
Yes.
thing to be like yes or no. So, it's like, I think when I reach out to people, it's never through the lens of like, I'm the best, you know, like,
Hmm.
which for you, it honestly might be because you are really good at selling in that way. Like, that's not really, I'm not good at that. Like, I think when I reach out, it's more like I just kind of like present my existence and like, and
Hmm.
kind of let them choose whether or not to lean into it. And it's like, very clear when I do that. It's either like really strong or they're just like, oh, it's not the right time or it's not the right thing. So
Hmm.
again, I don't ever want human design to hold us back. I would just say
Hmm.
like, so I would just stay connected to that, you know, of
Yeah.
like, do I really feel valued and seen and appreciated in this opportunity?
Mhm. I think you do an above and beyond remarkable way of marketing yourself on Instagram.
Thank you so much.
It
Really? That's good.
is,
You're like giving me all the affirmation I need
uh-huh.
today.
You're
Yeah.
when I very first started digging into human design, then almost 3 years ago, being coached through it, she immediately said, "You need to go follow her. She's a
Sure.
projector. I think y'all are around the same age." I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay, great. I'll go look." And to watch how I'm saying effortlessly, obviously you're doing work. I'm not saying you're not working, but in this
Yeah.
effortless way, you show up and give incredible value. You make human design so user friendly, so understandable, right? Life applicable.
Yeah.
And it's you have this magnetic way of posting on your Instagram going, I don't even know who this lady is, but I want
Yeah.
absolutely everything that she has to offer. And you just make
Wow.
yourself known.
Yeah. I
Is
have a
this your
child.
baby? Ah,
Yeah.
yes. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah. He's trying to
Yeah.
slow down. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, yes, I
Yeah.
need my
She's like,
mom, please.
we're gonna
I
finish
need
this
my
conversation
mom.
together, okay? And then we'll have a nice meal.
Oh, you've gotten to be on so many things.
So
Yeah. Okay, and she is she the manifesting? No, she's the
she's a
generator.
manifester.
She is
She's a
she's
little
a
seven. She's a manifester.
manifester. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. Do you
I
feel like
know.
you could feel any of that in utero?
100%. Oh,
Okay.
in utero.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, she was born at a time where like all the kiddos were manifestors. So I kind of
Oh,
like felt it was coming. It was bizarre. It was like,
yeah.
what are you going for?
Yeah.
But I would say that like she's a very willful manifester, and I feel like that
Mhm.
really kind of helped me make the book happen. But one
That's what
thing
I
that
love.
was hilarious is that like, you know, labor can often be faster the second time, but she came out in one push. And she's a splenic manifester. I was like, this girl is fast. It was like, it was truly so shocking for all the like the nurses and the
Yeah.
midwives because I like started pushing and then I was like, I believe her head is out. And like I was in the pool and like a woman, the
Yeah.
midwife came around. She's like, her head is indeed out. I was like,
Yeah.
what? You know, it's so perplexing. So anyway, she's super fast. She's very particular and she needs a lot of
Yeah.
freedom.
I love that. I love
Yeah,
that you knew that. I love that you could feel that. I think it's, beautiful, but like the universe is designed as well that you got to have her while you were birthing that book and
I
could just
know.
feel that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You are just so special. And how fun. She's gotten to just go along with a lot of you on it.
Oh, she's been on the whole book journey.
Yeah, she has. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful. Well, I will want to get you to her as fast as possible. Is there anything that comes up for you, just either about this process, about human design, anything at all that you haven't gotten to share on the 77 podcasts
I
that
know.
comes up for you that you hope people know or a permission that you would love to give them?
I know my husband was so funny today because I was like, "Oh, I'm feeling really complete with my podcast journey."
Ah,
You know, I have a lot this week. He's like, "You wanted to do 20 more." I was like,
I
"I
know.
know."
Yeah.
I was like, "I don't know if I can."
Yeah.
I think that let's think. Anything that comes up for me. I think that like I guess what comes up for me is that like through this book process, you know, it's like really vulnerable
Hmm.
putting things into the world,
Yeah.
and especially in book form because it feels more permanent than most things.
Hmm.
But I guess like it's also like more gratifying than anything else. So like
Yeah.
I don't know, for those listening, I feel like one, human design is an amazing reminder that like you're wired to do things differently, but I also think like if there's a thing that you feel drawn to sharing,
Hmm.
like doing it. Like there's something about like putting a thing out into the world and like letting it take on a life of its own. And I feel like I'm just really being reminded of that in this moment where it's like, what, we're
Yeah.
5 days, this will be out when this episode comes out. But it's just like,
Yeah.
it's a really scary thing and it doesn't make it the wrong thing,
Yeah.
And so I just hope that those listening, listen to whatever pings or instincts or knowings they have and like know that the fear of doing it doesn't make it the wrong thing to do. And like I think the whole purpose of the book is to help you choose in braver, more empowering ways. So
Yeah.
like if you're in that moment of like, should I do it or not? Hopefully returning to the book if you get it to be like, you know what, this is exactly what I meant to
Yeah. I I think my whole family would thank you and your book and all the things that you post on Instagram,
do.
that I don't overthink. I think as a splenic
Yeah.
projector, I would get these intuitive hits that would make absolutely no sense. And I would think that's crazy. That's insane. I
Yeah.
mean, 3, 6, innocence, it's all
Yeah.
over the place. That like the what is she doing now is all over the place in my
Yeah.
chart. And human design has helped me to feel so settled that it is wild and crazy and it doesn't make sense, but it's absolutely right for me.
Totally. And that's
Yeah.
what human design does. It's like it
Yeah.
gives us the self-trust that we need in the moments that we
Hmm.
need it. And
Agree.
like as I've been studying human design for 10 years and still she's like, "What are you talking about?" And still I need that reminder all the time. And so
Yeah.
my goal with this book is that it can be that reminder that you can pick it up and be like, "Oh, this is exactly how I choose."
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
it. Okay. Where can people get more of you?
So, I sell personalized guides on my website,
Yeah.
humandesignblueprint.com. They
You want
are
one.
You do want one,
You
and you
want
could
one.
you can use the discount code Chelsea. I also teach human design. That's how
Mhm.
Chelsea came to
Yes.
me, and you can use the discount code
Yeah.
Chelsea on our coaching certification as well. And
Mhm.
then on Instagram, I'm at Erin Claire Jones and also Human Design Blueprint.
Okay, can I ask you what made you made becoming, it was not even negotiable. I was sitting in Starbucks across from my generator friend. We're dead in conversation. It's 8 o'clock at night. I'm actually exhausted, but she still had more to say. So I was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and go, should I get certified for human design? And she goes, what? And I was like, should I? She goes,
Oh
I
my
don't
God.
know. Should you? And I'm like, I don't know. She goes, I go, well, I wouldn't do it with anyone but Erin Claire. She goes, how much does it cost? I said, I don't even know. Let's look it up. And then I looked at her and I was like, I'd be losing money not to. This is dumb.
Oh my
So I just feel like
God.
that's okay. That's another example of splenic. I'm not
That is
kidding.
such a great example of splenic.
She was dead middle of the story of I don't even know what about her kids. And I just looked dead at her in the face and went, should I get certified for human design? We were
Oh,
not
that's
talking about human design.
hilarious. What an
Yeah.
amazing example.
Yeah. But you
Yeah.
just made it, I feel like you made really diving in deep, at least the level one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made it very affordable.
Oh yeah, it's gone through quite a journey. Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
like that was I think our business we've always tried to be a little bit more about volume than like we're gonna have
Yeah.
10, high paying. It's more like how can we make our
Yeah.
offerings as accessible as possible to as many people as possible.
Yeah. I was gonna
And
say
and the
something
course,
similar.
yeah, and the course has not always been affordable and accessible in that way,
Mhm.
but it's been
Mhm.
actually so fun to make it a lot more affordable because and
Yeah.
for those listening it's 4.95 and I think with the
Yep.
discount it's 4.45, but I think that like um I feel like the people that purchase like early on, they were like, I want to be a human design coach. This is my journey. And the
Hmm.
people that purchase now, there are those people for sure. But then there are also people that are just like, I want to go deeper and I don't know where it's going to take me, but like I'm intrigued. And so like I love making
Hmm.
an offering that feels like they don't need to immediately know where it's going to take them, but they're
Yeah.
trusting their instinct. And so,
Hmm.
that is the goal. And it's been fun to kind of watch that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. As an alignment and clarity coach, I just felt like I knew so much studying it for several years,
Yeah.
but the way I was like, for $500, like I would be a fool not to
Yeah.
learn deeper in however you're, teaching me
Yeah.
to roll it out. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Oh, I
recommend it
love
for
that.
anybody. So they can go to your website, humandesignblueprint.com,
Hmm.
and there is a free version of the profile, a little mini
Yep.
version. Do y'all, it is not this complex, crazy chart thing. It's almost like little bullet affirmation statements.
I know.
It's beautiful. Then
Yeah.
they can get their full blueprint. You can
Yeah.
use the code Chelsea for a discount on that. And then you have the human design certifications. You have level 1 and you have level 2.
Level two's
Yeah.
coming. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Amazing. Thank you
Well,
so much for having me.
thank you. Thank you for writing the book. Thank you for doing the certification, for doing the
Yeah.
video classes that we got to be on with you every single week, for just making it so digestible and accessible.
It is so my pleasure.
We appreciate you. So,
Yeah.
all right, all things excellence fam. Thank you for learning with us today more about human design with the Erin Claire Jones. We're so excited to announce her book, How Do You Choose, is officially released. So, until next time. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening to All Things Excellence. If something landed with you today, I'd love for you to follow the show, share it with a friend, or leave a quick review. It helps more women find these transformational conversations. And if you're ready for support with your next step, or needing someone to stand in the gap with you to figure out what that even is, I'd love to create that space for you. And my intro clarity call is a great place to start, because life is too quick and too full to have to figure it out alone. Until next time, All Things Excellence fam, thank you for listening.